This is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee on the 10th day of August 2024. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, hot. Let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to take a hard look at, is Iran and or Hezbollah going to do a serious attack on Israel in the coming days? Okay? There's a lot of talk now that Iran is divided, and that's BS. That's nonsense. Iran is run by the Khomeini, who's like a caliph. Okay, he stays there basically till he dies, like the Pope or something, you know. And he is the supreme leader. He runs the place, not the elected officials. So don't buy into that. They did promise an attack on the 9th of Av, which begins the evening or the sundown of Av. It's actually the Erev, mixing the day and the night, on the 12th and goes to the evening of the 13th. Okay, now they might do that just to be mean and vindictive, and we'll discuss that. Okay, the Houthis are in full regalia, attacking anything and everything. Okay. So there's not a question of, are the Houthis going to attack? They are, but they're not really able to attack Israel. They don't have the weapons, the means. They're too far away. So, yeah, they're attacking shipping, and the Americans and the British are bombing them periodically, but not heavy. Okay, so we're going to discuss that, and then since I got away from the inadvertently trying, well, I wasn't really trying, I was inadvertently setting the sequence of events in these prophecies, mostly with Zechariah 12, and it was, I would say, I inadvertently was leading us to point out the day that Yeshua will appear in the clouds, and I didn't set out to do that. I set out to do the sequencing. Well, anyway, the Lord corrected me on that. Showed me a translation error on the word used for year of recompenses. It's not Shana, it's Shanat, which is not a precise period of time like a 360-day biblical year, but it would probably be a time not very deviant from a year, or God wouldn't have used that word. He would have used, these are the days, or, at that time I will, or something like. He wouldn't use this word. Okay? So, now that I got away from that, now I'm getting a lot more clarity from the Lord on many things that I'll show you today in Malachi 3, 4, Revelation 11 mostly. Okay? And I think you'll like it. And what else? We'll talk about Ukraine, Russia. China's not a lot to talk about. And we'll talk about America and all of that. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is go into the live stream and make sure that we're live and have sound and picture and little things like that. Then I'm going to put up some posts in there, which will take a brief period of time. Okay. Gives people a chance to come in. They're not going to miss much. And I'm going to put my email address up. Got it. And being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. If you join in or not, it's up to you. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, before I get started, I want to address a couple of things with you guys. I did a correction on what I told you. I was inadvertently date setting, trying to sequence the events that are coming on us, mostly around Zechariah 12. Now, some people may have gotten mad and frustrated with me and gone away, and that's okay. All right? That's fine, because they're probably not supposed to be here in the first place. Look at all the things I taught that are good. You know, there's one little thing and they go away. The other thing about the people that come in here is 90% of them do not give offerings. Now, there may be, 2, 3 people that are really destitute and down and out, but the others just don't give. Stop it, Chief. Okay? So that's a very difficult thing for me to deal with, and anybody else. And the false teachers know this happens too. So what they do is they tickle the ears and make the people feel better while they're in the, broad and wide is the road to destruction and many find it. So they take them down that path and the people are just elated. These are the called, not chosen, okay? Many are called, few are chosen. These are the called. They know about God, they know about heaven, they know about eternal life, and they don't understand anything beyond that, and they go chase the churches because it has a physical manifestation. What do I mean? They got a big denomination, they got a big building, they got a daycare, they got a children's ministry, a women's ministry, a men's ministry, home Bible studies, they have services on Sunday. If you were going to worship the sun god, what day would you worship him on? Sunday, perhaps? That's Tammuz, the sun god. His birthday is December 25th. Ring any bells? And this is a big organized church, and so many people come, how could it be wrong? And, and then they read passages in the Bible that they're violating with these churches, and they don't care. Because they don't get any conviction from the Holy Spirit. Okay? They don't. And it tells us that in 2 Corinthians 11:4. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, it's who they preach. The one who did away with the law, who changed the Sabbath to Sunday, who was born on the sun god's birthday, whose mother is Esther, Easter. It's comical, but it's sad. Okay? Who preacheth another Jesus whom we have not preached. Or if you receive another spirit which you have not received. When they enter the church, they lay hands on them. Okay, lay hands suddenly on no man. It works both ways. When they put hands on you, they're passing unclean spirits into these people. That's what they're doing. Or another gospel which you have not accepted. You might bear well with him. Well, they have another gospel. Okay? They contradict Yeshua, who 4 times said in John 6:39, 40, 44, and 54 that all that the Father gave him, he will raise up at the last day. The last day means there's no more days. It's after Satan's released, after the millennium is over, and Father God comes down from heaven and burns the whole universe up, and they meet him in the air because there's nothing left to stand on. Then they go up on clouds to heaven, and their body, I believe, would be transformed to a spiritual body at that point. And they contradict it all the time. That's another gospel. And they have another Jesus that gave them this other gospel. Guess who he is? Satan. These are doctrines of demons, okay? So some of these people are going to pull away, and that's fine. 90% of them never give an offering. Do you understand that's against the scriptures too? They come here over and over and over for years, some of them, and they don't think they have to give. Then I get some that think they're so advanced in the scripture they don't have to give scripture any offerings. When they get fed spiritually, they don't give of the carnal things. They muzzle the ox when he treadeth the grain. And that's robbing God. It's clear. I'll cover that today. That's robbing God. Because the way the system works is the people are supposed to support the one that gives the spiritual things. So because I went off a little bit, okay, they'll reject me, and what they'll do is they're not really of us. That's why they go out from among us. And what they're going to do is they're going to chase somebody else, because they're going to be looking for somebody else, and they're not going to find somebody else. Okay? You got to read Malachi 2, and there's so few people in the world that would receive this. Okay, I knocked myself out at an old age, and as soon as they see something they don't like, boom, they're out of here, you know, and they get upset. So what can I tell you? I do the best I can do, and if that's not good enough for you, go out from among us. I can't help that, you know. I've been doing this on the internet now for, I don't know, roughly 12 years, 11, 12 years, and when I first started it, I didn't take offerings for 2 years. I just ran my own money down, okay? And then I did offerings, and it was so dismal that the Lord actually told me they're not worthy. And I stopped doing the broadcast for a while. I got so disgusted with it. So I hope you never have to be put in the same situation, you know. But it's really depressing, okay? And it's a test and a trial, and it teaches me patience and endurance. And it's not all about money, but money is covetousness, which is mammon, which is the root of all evil. And that's where these people are. So yeah, they'll go away, okay? But are they supposed to be here in the first place? I've had probably in excess of 100 people in these years that try to get close to me. They say, oh, I had a dream, I had a vision, I feel I'm supposed to be with you, we're going to do things. I don't know these people from a hole in the wall, and the Lord never told me anything about that, right? And I don't get anything in my spirit. And then I get all kinds of variants. I've had people give me generous, and I mean very generous offerings, and then they were trying to get me to go into a same-sex relationship theology. Yeah, really. And I've seen this, you know, so many times. They try to pull me in to somebody else, another teacher or something. See, let me tell you how it works. If you have Satan bots in your life, one way you'll spot them is they won't call you on the phone. They wait for you to contact them in person or on the phone, because they want you to violate 2 John 9-11, okay, which reads like this. This is spiritual warfare. 2 John, I didn't know I was going to do this today, but I am. 2 John is only one chapter, 9-11. whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. Now, is the doctrine of Christ that if you get fed spiritually, not to give offerings of your carnal things? No, it's not. And I've got about 90% of the people that operate that way. Do you got it? So don't expect me to be floored if a lot of people leave me. Believe me, I'm not floored. And others try to manipulate you various ways. Flattery, try to give you insights in the scriptures. The Lord a long time ago told me not to go chasing other people's doctrines on scriptures, okay? Abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, okay? So what are some of the things they say? You know, you're a charlatan. You always ask for money. Guys, I'm here in Israel. It costs more to live here than it does, I believe. Well, there's places in Europe that might cost more. But it costs more to live here than America. And the wages are low, and I don't work. I'm too old to work. You know, I put in about a 7-hour day. And then that's getting ready for the broadcast and the broadcast. 6 to 8 hours, let's say 7 hours off, you know, in there somewhere. And then I do more work during the day by updating the Telegram. And then sometimes I do more live streams. And I work into the evening. Before I go to bed, I usually update Telegram, or in the later evening for me, you know. And they think it's okay to just let other people support you, not them. You know, it's when you look at this, go tell me they're believers. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. Now, bidding him Godspeed goes on, it says, for he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. So the Satan bots in your life want you to give them a greeting. Call them on the phone. They won't call you, because their unclean spirits in them can't operate freely if they call you. Now, if they get desperate, they call you, but they want you to initiate the contact. And I find that what Satan does when you start rising up is he goes after any family you have, okay? Cousins, uncles, aunts, whatever, to make you more lonely and try to wear you down. Okay? And they pull these people in, and then what you'll find, these people, if you wait months, they'll never call you. Relatives that used to talk to a lot, don't call them, and you'll see months will go by and they'll never call you. They won't call you. And then if you call them, oh, how happy I am. Yeah. Okay? Toss them. If you see relatives doing stuff like that, toss them and their whole household. And tell the unclean spirits when they leave them, they're going to go to the place where unclean spirits go immediately and stay there for 5 years continuously. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you'll see a very strong reluctance for other unclean spirits to go into these people. It says they will come back with 7 more. Yeah, but if you tell them to stay there for 5 years, they got to wait 5 years. And they're miserable in that place. Don't take it lightly. They do a con job on the people that serve them, but they're miserable when they go there. And I've done things like this, and they avoid the person. What they will do is they'll appear to the person and talk to them. That's all they'll do. And that's not the same thing, but it keeps the person trapped in the sin. And they're not supposed to get out of it because they're not of us. Their name's not in the book of life. They're not the elect. They're not the remnant. They're not the saved. They're the enemy. Okay? This place is full of them, I'm sure. All right? So, people don't understand what it's like to try to spread the true gospel. Yeah, I mean, I gotta constantly analyze when somebody, approaches me to want to be friendly. Now, some of the people are real, and they really are believers, and they really are friendly, and they don't have hidden motives, and they really mean it. And I know that, and I know who they are. Okay? And the other ones, when they realize they can't get to you, they just fade off into the wilderness, or I just demon toss them, and they enough, and they don't come back anymore, and they just go about their merry way until they wind up in the pit. And this is a problem. So if this helps you, don't contact them. If you see people, they may very well be family members or friends. Don't call them. Don't call them. And if you see them in the street, don't be the first one to give them a greeting. Don't smile at them. Don't nod at them. Don't wave at them. Nothing. Walk with a poker face and watch what they do. And I'll tell you what they do. They won't give you a greeting. They'll even stand next to you if you're in a store or a restaurant or something to wait for you to greet them. Don't greet them. And you'll see they won't greet you. Try it. I've done this for over 30 years, and it works. Try it. Okay? These people are not real believers. Okay, now a lot of them think they are real believers, that's for sure, because many are called, but few are chosen. So you'll find this to be very powerful spiritual warfare, and it'll weed them out of your life. And you expect there'll be relatives in there, expect it. And the other thing is when you answer the phone, or the WhatsApp, or one of those methods of voice communication, live. I'm talking live. I'm not talking email. They can't do much with email. You could still give them a greeting in email, like write them back and say shalom, good to hear from you. Don't do that unless you know who they are. So they, when they call on the phone, don't say hello. You're giving them a greeting. And you'll find that telemarketers will do the following. They'll sit there and say, hello, 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 trying to get you to say hello. So how can you answer the phone? You could say, this is Moshe. That's not a greeting. Or a better one yet is, in a nice tone of voice, say, who's this? In Hebrew, that's a normal way of answering the phone. They say mise, which is who's this? Mise. Okay? And that's a good way to do it. Say, who's this? But if you say, who's this? Then you say, who's this? Or who's calling? Something like that. That's not a greeting. That's a question. And expect them to go silent, or they'll start saying hello, hello. When they say hello, 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 say, who's calling? Who are you? Or if by then you recognize your voice, you say, is this Bob? That's not a greeting. Well, don't say anything. Just keep, the best is just keep saying, who's this, who's this? And you'll be surprised. Now, telemarketers freak out when you pull this on them. The telemarketers that are making money are Satan bots. And when they get you on the phone, they do witchcraft and sorcery and spells and enchantments and stuff to get you to play into their web of sin and buy crap from them or something, right? Or do a fraud on you or something like that, right? So a lot of them just hang up. A lot of them will just hang up. Because they're on a treadmill, they're grinding. They got to make so many calls a day to get, so many orders and make so much money, and they can't waste their time with you. There's always another person to call. So they'll just go away. You'll be encouraged when you try this. Okay, let me look at the chat here. What is your question about a mitzvah? Let me know your question. Rather than ask me to do a general discourse, give me a specific question and I'll try to respond. But I can't go running around chasing all kinds of topics here because I'm trying to cover prophecy as it relates to today. Okay. Someone's sitting here saying this is pre-recorded. Well, if it's pre-recorded, why am I asking people to put questions up in the chat? It's people are ridiculous. Sometimes. All right. Next. If you want to play games with the unclean spirits and have a laugh on them, I'll tell you what I started doing back in the 1990s when I was living in the Galilee and Tiberias. I started demon tossing them in Hebrew to let them know the Jews were back. I would say I don't think there were many people demon tossing in Hebrew for many, many centuries or any. They didn't like it. All right, I'll tell you how to do it in very simplistic baby talk Hebrew. Let's say you're going to toss John Doe, which of course is not a real person, all right? So what you would say, Bashem Yeshua HaMashiach, that means in the name of Yeshua the Messiah. That's his real name. It means giver of salvation. It doesn't translate it to English very well, but that'll give you a good handle on it, okay? Yesha is salvation. Yeshua is like provider, giver, salvation, source, something like that. It doesn't translate well into English, okay? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, Lo Tov Ruachim, no good spirits, Lo Tov Ruachim, or if you want to put it in the singular, you go Lo Tov Ruach, okay, no good spirit, Ruachim is spirits, you could do either way. Boy, John Doe, Akshav, it means go out or come out of John Doe now. Boy, it's go out from boy, John Doe. Akshav means now. And then you could reiterate B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay? Now, you could keep playing this back until you get it down. I'm transliterating it. Well, I'm making it into, easy for you to do. It'll work. I've done it. It'll work. Okay? If you don't know the name of the person, and let's say it's a woman in the store that's giving you an evil eye or something like that, you would just say, Lo Tov Ruachim Ba Eze Gaveret, this woman, okay? Boy, Eze Gaveret Akshav, come from this Gaveret is woman. Now, Akshav is now. Or you could say, boy, Eze Adam Akshav, go from this man now. Okay, Adam would be man, Gaveret is a woman. Okay, if you want to do it to a child, say Yeled for a male child, Yeldot for a female child, Yeledim for children. You could toss out of a group of children. Okay? And when you toss, don't stand around and wait to see an observable sign. Satan and the demons many centuries ago learned when you start tossing them not to throw the person around, throw them in water or fire or hit them in the wall or, they don't do that. They slip out discreetly. Okay? Now you could enhance the commandment by say, like immediately, but akshav is like a Hebrew for immediately. It means right now. You know, like if my wife's calling me, she'll say, Moshe, Moshe. I say, I'm busy. She'll say, lo, akshav. No, now, meaning maybe she's holding something and she needs help real fast or something like that. So akshav serves that purpose. So that doesn't mean they're going to come out that very hour, like when Paul threw the demon out of the woman's soothsayer. Okay? Akshav is immediate. Okay? Now, if any of you want to learn more about this, I have a special Telegram channel that deals with demon tossing and spiritual warfare, not just demon tossing, spiritual warfare. And it uses the scriptures all the way through, and it's free. All you got to do is send me an email and ask me for the link. Now, to use Telegram, you got to download Telegram Messenger, which is also free. Okay, that's the app, Telegram Messenger. They got 700 million people. It's a great place. It's no censorship. It's free. The app is free. It's free. I don't see ads or anything there. So, okay. Now, let's talk about Iran. So the Khomeini is the supreme top dog, high holy roller leader of Iran, not the elected president. If I was going to put the elected president into some kind of political perspective field, I would go with Secretary of State. Okay? Because he's a high-ranking member of the government. But the Secretary of State serves at the pleasure and reports to and answers to the President. And that's pretty much how Khomeini is, okay? But they can't get rid of Khomeini. The Congress or the Parliament, whatever you want to call it in Iran, can't start holding votes and, do a vote of no confidence to throw Khomeini out of office. You can't get rid of Khomeini. He's it. Since they did their revolution in 1979, this Khomeini dude is the second Khomeini. Iran said a number of things to Israel. They said, we will respond to your assassination of the Hamas leader in Tehran immediately, quickly, harshly, And now, and then after that, after a few days of that, they said they would respond on the 9th of Av, which is the day that both temples were destroyed and Israel was really wiped out, pretty much, that was still there. Solomon's temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av, as was Herod's temple. The Bar Kokhba revolt, which was something like 112 AD, 125 AD, is something in that area. He was a false Messiah. And they revolted against the Romans, thinking he was the Mashiach, Messiah, and they're going to win. And the Romans stomped them out on the 9th of Av also. Now, there's other events that happen on the 9th of Av that have nothing to do with Israel, and I would say that's probably irrelevant. World War I supposedly started on the 9th of Av, but it had no specific relevance to Israel. The Balfour Declaration was 1917, and that was a good thing for Israel. And 1914 with World War I, there was no anything for Israel here. Now, what some of you may not know is there were Jews living in Jerusalem and Israel, after 70 AD, always. There were always a remnant here. Small amount. Okay? You could go find Mark Twain's discourse about the Holy Land when he visited it, which was probably in the 1800s. And there wasn't much here. The Dome of the Rock did not have a gold roof. It had a wood roof. It was in disrepair. Concrete was broken up. The building was in disrepair and so forth. There were Muslims living there. There were hotels and restaurants, because a lot of people would do what was called make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. It was particularly popular with the Catholics. They have a word for it. I can't remember it. They have a path they walk in Old Jerusalem, which is the path they say that Yeshua walked when he was led to his death. I doubt it's accurate. And some of them take a whip and they whip themselves while they walk. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But so it was a rather popular site, but it was a very expensive trip, which many people didn't have the money. And you didn't have airplanes, you basically had to go with a boat, but I think they had trains probably by the early 1800s or so that would come down from Europe and Turkey and get into Israel. I know they had them in the latter 1800s, I believe, but there wasn't much industry there. A lot of the churches of the world kept a church inside Israel, so when their members of their churches would make their pilgrimage, they would be able to go into a church of their home country. The Catholics were big on this. They had several. They still have a lot of Catholic churches in Israel. I mean, maybe a dozen or something like that. The Baptists have a church. The Assemblies of God has a church. And the Greek Orthodox and the Russian Orthodox have churches. And I think that's it. Why did God keep the churches out of Israel? Because he didn't want them spreading their other doctrines and their other gospel to the Jews. Why has it been so difficult for Messianic Jews to come live in Israel since 1948? Well, the Messianic Jewish movement really took off in the 1980s, in the early 1980s. I remember it well. And as it grew, Israel started blocking them from coming to live here. And there was a reason for that. God didn't want them here spreading their garbage doctrines. The Jewish people in Israel, I'll explain why, are a lot closer to the true gospel than the church people. And I'll explain that to you briefly. It's easy to grasp. Number one, the Jewish people do not believe the law is done away with. What did Yeshua say? In Matthew 5:17 or 5:12. Think not that I came to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. Now, the church usually stops right there. But he said the law and the prophets, but to fulfill. So they say, well, Yeshua got rid of the law, but not the prophets. But what's the next verse say? For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. The one that teaches people to disregard the least of these commandments shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but the one that teaches these commandments shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Thank you, I'll go with the latter, great in the kingdom of heaven. Now, the church does away with 360 commandments. What did Yeshua say? If you love me, obey my commandments. Yeshua is the Word made flesh, so all of a sudden, the Word in the Old Testament is not Yeshua. All of a sudden, that's the only way they can justify that, but they'll never tell you that, but by proxy, that's what they're telling you. Okay? You can't understand prophecy if you think the law was done away with. Hosea 6:1 and 2 explains that there was a 2-day or a 2,000-year punishment placed on Israel. 1,000 years is like a day. Hosea 6:1 and 2. I believe the time is just about up. Now, they are, there's so many of them out there talking about Israel's going to get demolished now. They're nuts. So is it possible that Iran would attack Israel on the 9th of Av, which begins on the 12th of this month in the evening and goes to the evening of the 13th? It is possible. They announced it. And Hezbollah is talking about, with great pleasure, the stress level they've placed on Israel, knowing a big attack is coming. I've lived here for many years. This is true. It affects everybody here. Let me explain it to you. Let's say you're living in America and you're getting rocket and missile attacks and drone attacks from Canada, Mexico, Cuba, and Nassau in the Bahamas. Every day. That's what it would be like. You got it? That's what it would be like. And people crash on me over this setting the sequencing on the end times events. And I'm doing this by myself, okay? In the middle of this war, all right? And they get upset with me. What's my only defense against that? I care not. What can I do? The ones that don't give are not in the faith. See, in the book of Acts, chapter 2, they talk about the early congregation, which would have been a messianic congregation. And it said they had all things in common. They sold their possessions to meet the needs of others. You see, the money gets rid of the garbage, because they won't give the money. Because they're into mammon, which is the root of all evil, because that's the direction Satan leads his people. You're either for him and against him. And they're against him. They don't follow his commandments. So when they're faced with giving money to true believers, they go away. They won't do it. They won't do it. They just go away. And they find somebody else to follow. Or they just fall away. What I do, in a lot of ways, is harder than what the prophets did. I'll explain it to you. God gave the prophets a message. They wrote it down, they delivered it to the people, they read it to the people, okay. And then the job was done. What I'm doing is taking those prophecies, interpreting them and applying them to current events today to show the people where we're at. These prophets didn't have to interpret other prophets' prophecies and put them together. Different prophets put them together so you could get a clear picture. Okay? I'm basically interpreting the prophecies and applying them to current events. Interpreting the prophecies and saying, well, one day this will happen. How's that going to help you? It's not going to be that helpful. Now, some prophets had it rough. Bad kings and stuff would punish them, lock them up, throw them out. They had to do, like Ezekiel had to do some rough things. Natan with David had probably a rough time. Daniel had a rough time. I'm not saying they didn't have it rough. They did. Okay, they had it rough. They had it rough. But I got it rough too. Don't think this is easy. And as far as I know, I'm the only one doing it. I'd love to sit there and some other man of God is sitting there and has all this and just lays it out. Many years ago, I needed to learn spiritual warfare and to keep myself alive, probably. And I begged the Lord to take me up and teach me, or have an angel teach me, or send me a teacher. Never got it. I'll explain why. First of all, there was no other teacher. And if he sent an angel or some, then would I really have it? I would have been spoon-fed like a baby. Okay? Not chewing solid meat like an adult. And I wouldn't really have it. So I had to painstakingly pull it out of the scriptures. And he was telling me that everything you need to know is in there, and I didn't believe it for a long time till he started unraveling it. And it is in there. And it's very powerful. In Luke 10 it says you could tread on all the power of the enemy. So it goes beyond Dignitas. You can break their witchcraft spells, enchantments, all kinds of things. I cover it in the Telegram channel. So back to Iran. So look, America has 16 warships in the area now. And there's, I think, perhaps another few warships up around Cyprus and Greece. We know they've moved 12 F-22 Raptor jets to, I believe, Qatar. They came to the UK and then they came to Qatar. These jets are much more potent than an F-35. They use them to penetrate into a country with air defenses to bust up the radar and attack. And then when the radar is busted up and the radar for the missile launchers and all of that is busted up, the country has no ground-to-air defenses, then the regular jets, F-15s, 16s, 18s, A-10, Warthogs, whatever, go in. B-52s, and so forth, okay? And there's supposed to be another 12 coming here for 24 total. Now, You don't bring F-22s halfway around the world to knock down drones and missiles. That's not what they're cut out to do. They're cut out to go into a heavily fortified country with a lot of ground-to-air defenses and disable those defenses. Or the mission could be to penetrate through those defenses, which it can do because it's very stealthy, attack a target and get out. Okay? So that's why it's in Iran. It's in the area near Iran. Qatar is right across the Persian Gulf from Iran, and the Persian Gulf's not like the Atlantic Ocean or anything like that, you know. So if they took off from Qatar and kicked in the afterburners, it'd be brief minutes, a handful of minutes probably, and they'd be in Iran. And Iran wouldn't know where they are. Their radar might tell them there's something up in the sky, but they're probably only going to have an estimate of a circle of about 25-mile diameter, and they'll have an idea that plane's in there. But 25 miles is useless with radar. They could send fighter jets up and try to find them, but again, 25 miles moving at great speed, you know, where are they going to find them? I mean, you know, if they could converge on that 25-mile circle, where in the 25 miles are they? They're not going to have visibility for 25 miles. Maybe they'd have visibility for 8, 10 miles, something like that. But visibility at an object moving at, you know, 1,200 feet miles per hour, while they're moving at great speed also, they're not going to find them. They might know they're being attacked. So what can they do? They try to play cover up. You know, they could blindly launch missiles that are heat-seeking. Lots of luck with that. It ain't gonna work. They could shoot anti-aircraft guns like World War II era up in the area if they have flak, which I don't know if anybody uses flak anymore. They could try shooting flak in the area. But basically, guys, the only chance they got is some kind of lucky pot shot, which is, you know, like a 1 in 1,000. You know, it's not, I mean, it's just not going to happen. You know, and if a missile does converge, getting close to the jets, the F-22 or the F-35, they have countermeasures. You know, magnesium flares, electronic jamming, evasion, all kinds of things, you know. They might be able to shoot the missile, chasing them with their own missile, you know, all kinds of stuff. So is Iran really going to attack Israel? I believe America's going to attack Iran. And I believe this is going to happen irrespective of Iran attacking Israel, because it's prophesied in Jeremiah 49. And it refers to Elam, which is Iraq, Syria, and Iran. I'm going to take a break for a minute. I'll be right back. Now that I'm setting the stage for Iran, and we will read the prophecy in Jeremiah 49, let me tell you what happened last night. A second American military base was hit severely by a drone, and that's the second within 3-4 days, I think. And this base had a whole building destroyed. This drone had a big payload, a big warhead. There was an American soldier who's posting on Twitter. Somebody sent me the post and I put it up on Telegram. He's posting in Twitter that America doesn't give a hoot about their military. I talked about this months ago. I said if Biden doesn't watch it, he'll get a revolution in his military against him. So the first time the attack came, it came up in northeast Syria, which is part of Elam, where the American bases are, because they're controlling the oil fields in Syria. Now, what happened since what's been happening the last several days, 7-10 days, the Syrian National Army that reports to Bashar Assad, the guy who runs Syria, have taken these oil fields away from America, back under their control. Now, do you think America will go to war over oil? That's like the old adage, does a bear poop in the woods? Of course. Now, is Syria a puppet state of Iran? Yes. They've got buildings in Syria that the IRGC owns. Big buildings. They got troops all over Syria. There's Iranian-backed militias in Syria that probably did this. Now, America is probably getting very sick and tired of Iran hiding behind proxies that they train, equip, and fund, and support, and saying, well, militias did it, leave us alone, you know. The Houthis went nuts attacking ships yesterday in the Red Sea area again. They were attacking American warships, civilian vessels. They're going nuts. It's rumored that America will try to go into Yemen with 5,000 to 10,000 soldiers. And the people that are saying this are also saying that it won't have much of an effect, that it won't. And they would need to go in with a good 100,000, and they're not going to do that. Why? Because it still leaves Iran. What do they have to do? They have to cut the head off the snake, which is Iran. If you get rid of Iran, you get rid of the problem. Now, what did Iran do yesterday that probably had the Secretary of Defense of America pulling his hair out? They gave a large amount, I think by shipping by air into Russia, short-range missiles. They gave them a lot of them. What is Russia going to do with these short-range missiles? But attack Ukraine. And America, the UK, and NATO are dumping money and weapons into Ukraine like it's going out of style. And along comes Iran and starts dumping weapons into Russia. To help in Ukraine. I would say that the events of the last week or so, or 10 days, would put Iran on the endangered species list, soon to become extinct. Really. After the latest round, the last 3-4 days of Houthi attacks in the Red Sea area, the shipping is close to non-existent in the Red Sea. Who wants to take a chance? Today, I would say during the night or yesterday, a American missile launching submarine was spotted off the coast of Israel. The submarine was not there to launch missiles in Israel, okay? It was there to launch against Hezbollah. American sub-hunting aircraft have been flying around off the coast of Lebanon. They're worried about Iran, who has a bunch of garbage, submarines, moving them near Lebanon so when American and British warships are there, they can sink them. The Houthis have no submarines. Neither does Hezbollah. Syria, no. And I don't think Iraq does. Maybe, but I don't think so. They're worried about a Russian submarine, but not greatly. I'm worried about an Iranian submarine. Now, Ukraine pushed into Russia 30 miles deep several days ago and established hundreds of square kilometers of land that they have occupied. Now, there's videos of Russian troops trying to get them out, failing, getting so scared they abandoned their vehicles and ran away. So I guess the drill is you abandon the vehicle, you're not an aerial target for the F-16s, of which Ukraine has 12 with pilots that are active hitting Russia. And they might take their uniforms off too. That I don't know. But they did abandon the vehicles. That's desperate. So Ukraine has figured out how to use the F-16s in conjunction with HIMARS missiles that, I don't know what they go, 150, 160 miles, and artillery and tanks and so forth, and they're holding the land. Putin declared Russia in emergency status, and he's been jockeying troops and military equipment around to go in and try to take it back, but we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen him take anything back. Ukraine is moving more troops to that area inside Ukraine, near the area, which is the Kursk region that they're occupying, which is near a nuclear facility of Iran, of Russia, and they may blow it. I imagine they will. Now, what is the effect of this on Israel? Well, Putin came over here, back up. Shogi, one of the key players in Russian Department of Defense, was over here some days ago because Russia was sending large convoys of aircraft, in a day in, day out, bringing weapons to Iran. And he's since left. Right after he left, the Ukrainians took over that patch of land, which is not so small, inside Russia. Now, Putin can't get rid of the Ukrainians. The way the Russians solve these problems is not with a vote of no confidence or Parliament coming up with an Article 25 that he's not competent or something like that. No, the way they take care of it is an airplane crash, a bullet in the head, poisoning, a drug that makes it look like a heart attack, something. They'll kill him. Do you know what an insult it is to have Ukraine invade you when you're Mother Russia and occupy you and stand there and not leave in defiance of you? I think the Russian generals are probably thinking about a regime change. Unless Putin does something. So now, in light of this, do you think Putin is going to join Russia in attacking Israel? Not a chance. To say Putin's plate is full is an understatement. Putin's got real problems. And I don't know if Putin's got the guts to go attack NATO. The other problem is that NATO sees Putin so weak, they might get their gander up and attack Putin in Mother Russia. Putin really has to go after NATO, but Putin's really scared. So what Putin wants right now is to see America dragged into a war in the Middle East. Because NATO without America is, probably at least 35 to 60% weakened. So he gets Iran to drag America into a war. So America is going to attack Iran with the other enemies of Iran. The Saudis just got approval from Biden to purchase offensive weapons from America yesterday. What does that tell you? It tells you that Saudi Arabia is going to stay in this coalition to protect Israel from incoming drones and missiles. The fact that America flew a squadron of F-18A jets from the Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf into Jordan, which is near enough to Iran, would make me believe that Jordan is in this game too, to defend Israel from missiles and drones. Now, if Saudi Arabia is in, rest assured, the UAE is in. They do everything together. They're very, very close. And Bahrain is in, and Qatar says they're not, but the F-22 Raptor jets went where? To Qatar. So Qatar is saying they're not in because it plays good, but they're in. Egypt said they were in to defend Israel, then they said no. That doesn't mean they're not. They lie, Egypt has lost much of its gross national product, which is revenue from the Suez Canal toll collecting. And the Houthis have demolished that income stream for Egypt. They probably have it down by 80% or more because of the closing of the Red Sea due to their attacks. So let's not assume that Egypt loves Iran or Yemen. No. But it's not socially acceptable for a Muslim majority country to say they're going to defend Israel. And I don't know what drones and missiles are going to pass through Egypt anyway. Unless somebody had a ship or something, I don't think so. See how the plot is thickening? If the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria stop attacking the American bases, America can do nothing and get away with it because there were only 2 attacks. Do you think they're going to stop attacking the American bases? I don't. What about Hezbollah? First thing you got to understand, if Hezbollah was as powerful as they say they are, Israel would never be doing what it's doing. Russia apparently is a big liar about their military capabilities. So is Iran. So is Yemen. So was Gaza, and so is Hezbollah. They're just lying. They try to scare the people. And when they scare the people, the left wing goes to the government in the streets and starts protesting, and, you know, they start singing the John Lennon song, Give Peace a Chance, you know? And if Joan Baez was younger, she'd come over here with her guitar and start singing peace songs, you know? With, I don't know, the others, Marianne Faithful, there were a few of them, you know. So, Hezbollah is criminally insane, okay? Israel has deactivated one of Iran's proxies, Hamas at Gaza. They're basically of no value right now. Look, any jerk Muslim terrorist could get in the media and say, I got 200,000 missiles, I got 500,000 missiles, or whatever. Yeah. So what? Israel's response to that shows Israel doesn't believe it. These figures are not released by the Israeli Defense Forces. They're released from the media. They get it from Hezbollah. A real missile is only, you could have 100,000 real missiles, but if you've got 10 missile launches, all you got is 10. Because as soon as they launch the first missile, Israel will have the GPS coordinates, hit it with artillery, surface-to-surface missiles, bomb it, air-to-ground missiles, all the above, or some of the above, okay? Drone attack. Their missile launches have a lifespan of 1 missile. Okay? The serious missiles, the missile launchers, got driven by a cab, like a tractor trailer. Okay? And it has like a lowboy trailer that has the missile launcher on it. It's, 30, 40 feet long. These things don't go off-road. Oh, maybe they could go on a dirt road or something like that, but they need a road. They're not like a tank. So they launch it, then they pack up and they try to get away. too late. How fast are they going to go with the truck? I mean, you know, the jets are going to come looking for him. Will the jets find him? Of course. And what will they do when they find him? They'll bomb it or shoot air-to-ground missiles at it. And they'll hit the truck. And the missile launcher is bye-bye. See the problem they have? Katyushas go 8 to 12 miles. So they could hit the population centers by the border with Lebanon that are already evacuated, 80,000 people have had to leave their homes. And they're already busted up. So they can keep raining, you know, the immature missiles down on the border area, but what the heck good's it going to do? So what you're going to see is basically a destruction in Iraq, Syria, Iran, causing them to leave their country. I'll show you the scriptures momentarily. And Lebanon's going to get it. The scriptures are, you know, Lebanon, open your doors, let the cedars of Lebanon burn. They get it. Now, is Israel going to be decimated? Well, I gave you this scripture yesterday. Let's do it again. Isaiah 61:4. And they shall build the old wastes. The old wastes. Let's check the word old to make sure we're not getting confused by bad translations. Hold on. No, old. Not the waste places that got accomplished next week. These are the old ones. They shall raise up the former desolations. The old stuff. And they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. The old stuff. We don't see a real destruction in Israel, and you know, associated with these times. Or, I mean, how could this scripture be there? You know? Now, we've had places, you know, some structures destroyed, houses up at the Lebanon border, and you know, near Sederot and near Gaza we had some, but it wasn't whole. Well, Ashdod had destruction, Ashkelon, but they're still functioning cities and everything. So it's nice that they run around talking about wiping out Tel Aviv. Now, let's go through the Jeremiah 49. We'll just cover the Elam part. Let me also throw in a scripture about Damascus, which is the capital of Syria. Jeremiah 49, verse 24. Damascus is waxed feeble, and turneth herself to flee, and fear has seized on her, anguish and sorrows have taken her as a woman in travail. How is the city of praise? David ruled out of Damascus once, King David. How is the city of praise not left? The city of my joy, when David was ruling. Therefore her young men shall fall in her streets, and all the men of war shall be cut off in that day. That's probably that day of Zechariah 12. Saith Jehovah of hosts, and I will kindle a fire. Jehovah is going to do this in the wall of Damascus, and it shall consume the palaces of Ben-Hadad. Okay? Very interesting. Combine it with Damascus shall be a ruinous heap, you know. Now I want to focus on Elam. We'll go to Jeremiah 49:34. The word of Jehovah came to Jeremiah the prophet, Yeremahu HaNavi, Jeremiah the prophet, against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, okay, so the prophecy was given during the time of Zedekiah. It's not for the time of Zedekiah. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, or Jehovah of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. The bow is the weapon. A bow launches an arrow, right? What does a missile launcher do? Launch a missile. But there were no words for missile launcher when this was written. You got it? All right. So the bow is the first of their might. The missile is the might of Iran. They don't have much after the missiles, okay? The Air Force is junk. The Navy is junk. They don't have much. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. They're going to be driven into captivity, which is what they want to do to Israel, drive it out of its country or kill it, or kill Israel, okay? And they're going to be scattered so bad they're going to go into every nation of the world. And that's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. Sound familiar? For I will cause Elam, now Lebanon and Yemen are not in Elam, okay. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before them that seek their life. And I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah, and I will send the sword after them, till I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam. That does not mean he's going to move it. Jehovah's going to enthrone himself down in Elam. The throne is the judgment. It means he's going to do the judgment in Elam. And will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith Jehovah. And it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith Jehovah. The latter days is the Gog and Magog, the great falling away, when we see Persia there. But that's 60-something years away, judging by the second 70 in Daniel 9:24. Let me look at the chat and see if I have questions to answer, because I do take questions. if you read the description box, it'll have information about me. Okay. All right, I have a request about the spiritual warfare in Hebrew. I'm going to do it one more time. Bashem Yeshua HaMashiach, in the name of Yeshua the Messiah. Bashem Yeshua HaMashiach. Lo Tov Ruachim. Lo Tov Ruachim. No good spirits. Boy John Doe. Boy John Doe. Come from John Doe. Akshav, now, immediately. Bashem Yeshua HaMashiach. If it's not John Doe, you can put in Eze Adam for this man. You could point to the man or look at him or something, right? Or you could say Eze Geveret for this woman. And if it's a child, you would say Eze Yeldat for a female child, Eze Yelid for a male child. If it's a group of children, you say Eze Yeladim, these children. Okay? You just keep going, playing it back and forth, and you'll get it. You know, do some psychological warfare on the unclean spirits. They're half crazy, they're more, they're like 80% crazy anyway. It's easy to push them over the line. All right. So now I want to take you through Malachi 3 because I got out from under this sequencing with the day and the hour. I'm out of that now, so that was clouding me because I was trying to make things fit, I suppose. But now I got it much clearer, and the Lord's helping me. Malachi 3:1, and we're going to go examine a lot of these words in Hebrew so we don't get the wool pulled over our eyes by the church publishing houses. Behold, I will send my messenger. Okay, the word for behold is hine. How can I give you the meaning for hine? You know, Hebrew doesn't go into English all that great, believe me. Believe me. There's a song they sing, the Messianics sing, and it says, Hine Yeshua HaMelech Israel. And it says, Yeshua, the King of Israel. And the hine is like, here he comes, or he's coming, or behold, look, he's coming, something like that. Behold's not the greatest word. But I mean, it's not an evil translation. It's just not the greatest way to express it. I will send. Let's see what that word is. Shaliach. And then it says messenger. Malach is a messenger. All right. When FedEx comes to the house, they call first, and you say Mise, which who's this? And they say Shaliach. So they use that word synonymously with messenger. Curious, isn't it? But it really means sent one messenger. I will send, it's okay translation, let's move. And he shall prepare. Here they come with the twisting of the knife in the back. Twisting the scriptures again, you church jerks. Okay. Shall prepare? He shall prepare? No. No, meaning way off. Strong's word is 6437. Panay. It's taken from panim, which is the face is panim, and I don't know where they got this translation from. They pulled it out of one of the finger holes in a bowling ball or something. I don't know where they got it. It means to appear, probably the best word for this. Or turn. You could say appear or turn. Not prepare, that's missing it. So we could say he's facing the way or appearing. It's prepare is going way too far. They're taking too much liberality with this. Too far off. The way. Let's check that word. I know what it is. It's Derek. The way. It's actually like a road or a path or something. But they say the way. The way, Derek. Okay, and then the word before is, again, they're confusing you. Or they're so dumb they don't know what they're doing. The word here is punim, which really means the face. It's the part of you that you turn, but you really turn the whole head. Like, I turn my punim, I turn my punim. So the way before means punim. It's like the Derek punim. The face of it really is very unusual the way they translated it. And Adonai, whom you seek, that's the Lord whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. Now, that's the temple that the church is telling you it will never exist. It's that same temple. Come to his temple, and that word is pretty okay for, hey, Carl, it can mean temple. There's no problem. It's temple. Even the Malach, the messenger of the covenant, Brit. That's the same one that's going to make a covenant with Israel in Daniel 9, like verse 25 or 26. Okay? And he'll break it when he leaves the temple. It's the glory of God of Israel is the messenger of the covenant, I believe. Whom you delight in. Well, they do. Remember, some of you saw the show Star Trek where they went like this? Well, the guy that played the Vulcan, what was his name? Spock, was a Jewish guy. His parents were Orthodox Jews, and he was raised Orthodox. And they took him into the temple. And in the synagogues, I had an experience with this too that I'll share with you. They teach them that when they say the Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, that the glory of God of Israel will appear to them, and in order to not be killed, they must close their eyes. And then comes the Kabbalah and the Talmud, and they make this hand signal, which is witchcraft. Spock knew it was a joke, or Leonard Nimoy knew it was a joke, so he incorporated it on Star Trek, and they did it as a greeting. He'd go like that and say, "Live long and prosper." That's where it came from. He did an interview. It's on YouTube. He explains it. So I was sent to Hebrew school for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I hated it. I lived across the street from the grade school, kindergarten through 6, but we didn't move across the street till I started first grade. And I would go home for lunch, and because there was nothing, I went to the corner across the street. They didn't let us jaywalk. They used to tell us, that they had little monitors out there that would get you in trouble if you jaywalked. So I went to, I went home, I'd have whatever my mother made me to eat, and then I'd go back to school. So it was real easy for me to get home from school. It took about 5 minutes, walking to the corner, waiting for the traffic light and stuff, right? Okay. So I got home and I changed my clothes, because back then we used to have to wear real pants. You couldn't wear Levi's. You couldn't wear sneakers. You had to wear leather-soled shoes. You had to have a tie, and you had to have a shirt with a collar. That's how my life was. So I'd go home, my mother'd make me, I don't know, milk, or maybe if it was springtime or warm weather, some juice, something like that. And I'd have something to eat, I don't know, a sandwich, cookies, whatever. And then I'd change my clothes, and I had to walk over to the synagogue where they had the school, and it was about 3-4 block walk. So I think I got over there by about 3:30 or 3:45 or something like that. So we had to stay there about an hour, or it could be an hour and a half, I don't know what it was. They had to stay there a certain amount of time. And the idiots taught us how to read Hebrew and write Hebrew, but not translate it. And I've come across other people that said the same thing. They didn't want us to understand the Bible. But we didn't know how to write Hebrew and didn't know how to read Hebrew. And I went there for years and I hated it. And they sold it on preparation for your bar mitzvah, which is not a biblical event. There's no Bible. It's the Talmud tradition. It's not Bible. Get that clear. It happens when you're 13, but they used to do it when you were still 12, coming up on 13. So you go to the synagogue, and they give you a piece of scripture, a piece of the Old Testament, actually, that you recite. That's about this big, if you can see. Maybe it's 8 lines or something. And they send you to school all those years to read 8 lines, and you don't write any Hebrew and your bar mitzvah. So I'm waiting to get bar mitzvah, and there's another kid there. And I think I saw the kid from the schoolyard in school, and he shows up there. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well, I'm getting bar mitzvah." I said, "I haven't seen you in the Hebrew school." He says, "No, I didn't go until a month ago, and my parents had me study for a month." I'm sitting there kicking myself. My parents sent me all these years when I could have been shooting hoops after school and he goes for a month. Boy, did I get a raw deal, So, anyway, the rabbi was a jerk, really, and his wife was a nice woman, and she liked me, and she knew I wasn't real happy there, and she used to try to work with me, because I was an excellent student, I skipped the 8th grade and stuff. I mean, I just flew through school. I was always at the top of the class, But I didn't, in the lower grades. In high school, I started getting fed up with the education. I thought it was stupid. But anyway, and I wasn't doing good in the Hebrew because I had no interest in it. I didn't like being there. None of us did. None of us did. You know? So, she used to tell me things like, oh, don't listen to the scientists. They don't know what they're talking about. They think they do, but they don't. And that's exactly what I would say today. She had some smarts. I highly doubt she was a believer. So one day she saw me sitting there, and I start going, Shema, Yisrael, Adonai, and she cuts me off and says, stop, stop. She says, you gotta close your eyes. She was thinking I would get killed if I did it with my eyes open, because the glory of God of Israel would appear and my eyes would be open. He don't appear. But they know who the glory of God of Israel is. You think there's people in the church that know who he is? I would go 100th of 1%, or 1,000th of 1%, almost none of them. They don't know who the glory of God is. Okay, so the Jews are closer than one would think. I'm one of them. I live here. I'm telling you, I was raised in a Jewish neighborhood in the Bronx. It was 99.9% Jewish when I was growing up. Everybody was a Jew. The only people that weren't Jews were the janitors of the buildings. Everybody else was a Jew. You know, some of the kids had more Judaism in them than others, but we all knew we were Jews. Not all the kids went to Hebrew school. A lot of them would get bar mitzvah, and I don't even know if they did anything with the rabbis. So the rabbis would just push you through it, you know. Before I had to read my piece, I said, you know, to the rabbi, I said, get me started. You know, we're up at the podium in front of everybody. I'm talking under my breath. Get me started, Rabbi, get me here. All right. And I didn't know, you know, I was nervous. I said, get me started, get me started. He says, I will, you know. And then he starts leading me. I wish today I remembered what verses it was. I don't know. I have no idea. It was probably not Zechariah or Malachi. It was probably something from, you know, the first 5 books or something like that. Probably, I don't remember. I have no idea. I would have no way of knowing how to find out. So, you know, so when I grew up, my grandparents and my grandparents, great-grandparents were still alive on one side. Great-grandparents, I knew them. I used to see them all the time. And they were talking Yiddish, and the whole neighborhood was talking Yiddish. And they sold the newspaper, the Forward, which was the Yiddish newspaper. It uses Hebrew characters, but it's not Hebrew, it's Yiddish. Like, you know, France uses English characters, but it's not, you know, it's not English. Like, bibliothèque is a library, and you wouldn't know what it is if you speak English by reading it, you know. So it's like that. I remember I was on a flight years ago going from Israel on Delta to America when I was working for a kibbutz, and the dinglings on Delta handed out the Yiddish news. Back then, airplanes were nice to people still. This was the 90s, the early 90s, and they were handing out newspapers. So you could get a Wall Street Journal. Usually you could get a the New York Times or a London Times or something like that. You know, USA Today was the one I used to go for. I used to like that. So they give you different newspapers for free. You know, and it was in coach. You know, the seats in coach were still usable back then, and they gave you good meals. You used to get real silverware. You know, and in coach, and they treated you well. You know. You didn't have to buy coffee or sodas. You had to buy alcohol, which I never really bothered with. But, you know, so we were doing that. And Um, the people in Israel are screaming as this couple, they're yelling at the stewardess, this isn't Hebrew, it's Yiddish, it's Yiddish. They didn't understand. The people in Israel used to speak Yiddish, but even by 1990, the number was down probably very, very slightly. Very few people in 1990s were using Yiddish anymore. In the 1970s, it was probably rampant here. You know, the ultra-Orthodox use Yiddish a lot. They have some belief that Hebrew's the holy language, so in their houses, a good amount of them, the Haredi and so forth, will speak Yiddish instead. So I grew up around Yiddish my whole life, but they never pushed me to learn how to speak Yiddish because it was, out of vogue, just the Jewish neighborhoods in the Bronx and Queens and Brooklyn, that had heavy concentrations of Jews who were speaking Yiddish. Maybe in Los Angeles they had a neighborhood or two that did it, but it was rare. So the stores all spoke Yiddish and stuff like that. I used to see the people with the numbers tattooed on their hand from the concentration camps all the time. There were loads of them in the neighborhood. It was real easy to see them. It wasn't unusual. And we knew, our parents taught us. So I could, remember a bunch of Yiddish and stuff like that, But I never had a fluency in Yiddish, But I just know a bunch of words and sayings and things like that. I never accomplished fluency. Now, when my father was raised, he was born in America, as was my mother. When he was raised, his father, my grandfather, sent him not to Hebrew school, sent him to a guy that ran a classroom in a storefront where he taught the kids Yiddish. So the kids knew English from going to school, but the parents would send them to learn Yiddish so the kids can communicate with the grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. A lot of them, they came from the old country, Poland, Russia. Ukraine was in Russia back then. My mother's father, my grandfather, came from Ukraine, but it was Russia then. They never really got deep into American culture. Most of them never drove a car. The kids did, but they didn't. Most of them never. They liked living in New York because the buses and subways were fantastic. You get anywhere easy, up until about 9, 10 o'clock at night anyway. Then it slowed down. So they liked it. They didn't have to have a car. They didn't drive. They didn't care about it. And they were mostly like that. Very few of them would drive. Very few. And they didn't, they had skills like shoemaker, tailor, butcher, things like that. They didn't get into being an engineer or an accountant. That they didn't. They learned English. They knew English. They knew how to talk. They had a fluency. They became citizens, and they had to go to classes for a number of years, 7 years, I think. And they had to learn history and culture and have English, and then they were sworn in to be citizens. And that's pretty much, the women were mostly housewives, and they were tradespeople. They'd be a painter. Maybe they worked with furniture. Some of them would work in the restaurant business. Were they car mechanics? No. No. That they didn't do. No. They weren't airplane mechanics. There weren't any of that. No. And that's what they did. And they got by. They, most part, were not wealthy. My grandfather was wealthy on my father's side. He had a factory making, he made shower curtains mostly, and clothing, different things. He had a plant with a lot of big knitting machines and had a bunch of people working there. He did quite well for himself. My other grandfather was a shoe repair guy. He didn't do quite great. He did for a while when he was younger, around the Depression era. He had a shoe store, and he did really good with a shoe store. But some people broke in through the wall from another building that wasn't secure and robbed all his shoes, and he didn't have insurance or the reserves to bounce back from that, so he went into a bad way from that. But for a while he was doing real good, and he never made it back. He just became a shoemaker or a shoe repair. That was his trade. Trying to think what the others did. One was a truck driver. That was unusual. Well, now they're kids. They push the kids, go to college, and education's your best friend. They can't take it away from you, meaning the Nazis. So they pushed them to go to college. So they wanted all the kids to go to college, you know. So again, they liked New York City because New York City had city colleges. Queens College, Hunter College, Brooklyn had one. You know, they had all, and they were not free, but they were close to free. It was like a continuation of high school. I didn't go to that. I went to a private school for 2 years, a college, then I went to a state university, and then I got a master's in a business school. But I was quite familiar with kids that did go to the city colleges, and I don't think it was such a bad education. It was relatively cheap as all get up. I mean, it probably costs $200 a year, plus books, something like that. You know, it was really cheap. When I was in the state university, it was about $1,600 a year. Today, it's probably, I don't know, $20,000 a year or something. I don't know. Okay, so back into Malachi. Shall suddenly come to his temple. That's the glory of God of Israel. Okay? Even the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of armies. I would say, can you say that's Elijah? Yeah, you can, because they say the Jews' tradition is Elijah's going to come teach them Torah. Could you say it's the glory of God of Israel? Yeah, but the glory of God of Israel is not a messenger. Even the messenger of the covenant. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way. That's Elijah. See, so he's probably referencing the messenger. It would be Elijah. Malachi 3:2. But who may abide the day of his coming? Now, let's not take for granted the English. It says, but who, and me, that's who. The word is who, not but who. It's who. May abide is, I think it would mean like to stand. No, wait. worse than I thought, the English. It can mean able to. Who able to Yom day, who's able to day of his coming. Well, the word is bo, means to come, coming. Go or come. So it's kind of sort of okay translation. And who shall stand? Now, the word for stand is amad. Endure, remain, stand. You could say that. Who may abide the day of his appearing or coming, and who, the word for coming is, no, it means coming, not appearing, coming, and who shall remain or stand when he appeareth. Now that word is an interesting word, it's ra'ah, and let's look at how Strong's flips it into English. This thing is giving me a headache today, it's moving on me. It means to see. So it says, appeareth. Yeah, you could say when he appeareth. It means to see. For he, who he, like refiner's fire, like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. So, do I think that this is the glory of God of Israel working with the sons of Levi that need to be purged of their gold and silver? No, I don't. I think it's Elijah. I don't think it's the glory of God of Israel would be doing anything like that. And I'll show you, when we see him arriving, he just walks into the temple. We'll cover that shortly. So he teaches the Levites how to make the offerings acceptable to the Lord. Well, that's not so much a function of how to slay the animal and skin it and so forth. It's more, some of that for sure, but it's more about how they have to manage their life. Okay? Not to take advantage of people, be fair and equitable, all of this stuff. How they treat the children, how they do business deals, how they do everything. How they treat the people. Not to offer preferential treatment to the rich and stuff like that, all right? Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in former years. Okay, this means the blessings of the law come on Israel. Now, is the temple here now? It could be, because it talks about, in the earlier verse, in verse 1, it says, shall suddenly come to his temple. If he's suddenly coming to his temple, the temple is there before the glory of God of Israel. So that could be the case, because we'll show you in Ezekiel 43 that the temple is there before the glory of God of Israel comes. Now, the other thing that this could be is when we go to Ezekiel 37, the last three verses, verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace, shalom, with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant. Well, if you have everlasting life, you'll have an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them. The everlasting covenant is going to come when Yeshua appears and he gives us a heart of flesh and puts his law in our inward parts. That's when that happens. And then they shall all know him from the least to the greatest, and that's in Jeremiah 31. Everlasting, it's probably around verse 28, 29, Jeremiah 31. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Now, let's stop here. An everlasting covenant, okay, with them. And I will place them. Now, the word for that place is 5414 in Strong's. It's Natan, means place them. I will place them means we go back to Israel. Well, we're already here, but others will come. And multiply them. That means be fruitful and multiply. And will set my sanctuary. Why do they use the word set when 6 or 7 words earlier they use the word place when it's the same word, Natan? Because they're trying to confuse you. So I would read it, and will place my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. So who places the sanctuary but Jehovah? Does that sound like a temple a bunch of rabbis built? Not to me, but let's continue. And it's not New Jerusalem. I know the difference. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Well, in 2 Maccabees 2, which we don't have time to read, chapter 2, it talks about Jeremiah hiding the actual tabernacle in Mount Nebo and sealing in a cave and sealing the entrance up until Jehovah shows mercy to Israel, which will be any day now. And it has the altar of incense, it has the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle. Waiting there, sealed and waiting there. Also shall be with them. So that means we're going to have a temple and a tabernacle. We have both. That's very interesting. So possibly the tabernacle comes first. Elijah teaches the I was just listening to the noise. It sounded like it was raining, but it can't be. So Elijah trains the Levites to make the sacrifices and offering acceptable unto the Lord. The word acceptable would also mean favorable. Then the blessings of the Lord come on Israel, and that would explain how the two witnesses do a tap dance on the heads of those surrounding Israel and wipe them all out. That's very consistent with the blessings of the Lord. Yes, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Next verse. And the heathen shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify Israel. Now, that's a kind of an unusual word for them to translate. It it doesn't mean, well, it means sanctify. It means holy, make holy. Kadosh, Kadashim, holiest the holies. Kadashim is plural for Kadosh. They sing songs, Kadoshim. All right, so I can't sing. The Lord do Kadosh Israel. So the heathen know that the Lord made Israel, let's say, holy, when his sanctuary, and that word is mikdash, which it could really mean a temple or a tabernacle. Probably the temple. Do sanctify Israel when my temple shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Well, it's probably the temple, and the temple comes down from heaven. It's not made by hands. And that's another area the church falls apart on. Because you can't have a temple if you did away with the law. And the churches, all 2 billion people of them are, doing away with the law. No, it's a small amount of them that play games and do Shabbat and eat kosher, but they're basically doing away with the law. Okay, going to Malachi again. And in verse 5, we start getting into some important stuff. And I will come near. Let's check that word. It's karab. Yeah, come near is okay. Come near to you to judgment. And the judgment word is mishpat, which is justice, judgment. And I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the witches, the people calling on the unclean spirits, and against the adulterers, against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of armies. So these people there's a swift witness against them, so they're going to get it. For I am Jehovah, I change not, therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. Even from the days of your father, you are gone away from mine ordinance and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of armies. But you said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, where have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even the whole nation. Bring you all the tithes and into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith Jehovah of armies, if I will not open you the windows of heaven. See, the 90% of the people that don't give offerings to me, they don't understand the robbing God, because God set the system up that the people give of their carnal things in return for the spiritual knowledge, and these people have fallen into covetousness with mammon, and they don't. And that's robbing God. You read it for yourself. And the ones that do, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you shall not have room enough to receive. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sake, and he shall not destroy the fruits of thy ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah of armies. Well, it appears those are the pestilent bugs, and he gets rid of them. That's what the devourer is. The locust, the palmer worm, the cankerworm, I think a caterpillar is one of them. And all the nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah. Well, a delightsome land, let's check that word. Chefetz. Pleasurable. So I would kind of start thinking maybe the weather will change. Your words have been stout against me, saith Jehovah, yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve God, and what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before Jehovah of armies? And now we call the proud happy, yea, they that work wickedness are set up. That's because during the 2,000 years of punishment in Hosea 6:1 and 2, he turned Israel over to their enemies, and that's why they get this interpretation. This is how they see it. Not a real interpretation of scripture. This is how they see things, because their eyes are dark and their ears are stopped up still. They that work wickedness are set up, yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. Then they that fear Jehovah spake, I would say spoke, not spake, spoke often one to another. And Jehovah hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Jehovah and that thought upon his name. So you talk about Jehovah, don't you? That's a good sign. And they shall be mine, saith Jehovah of armies, in the day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Well, that should take you to the prodigal son. He gets the inheritance from his father, squanders it with prostitutes and booze and partying. Then he's broke, he's ashamed, he goes off and works with the heathen, taking care of pigs, feeding them carob, uh, that plant, but he can't eat it. And he's starving. He says, let me go back to my father. At least I could work as a servant there. I'll get treated better. And, they see him coming, and the father runs out and gives him a robe and shoes and puts a ring on his finger and calls for a party and says he's returned. And the other son says, well, what about me? And, the father tells him, well, everything I had was yours all along, that kind of thing. A little jealousy, but the father cleans it up, makes it all right. Okay. I will spare him as a man spareth his own son. The one that is jealous, it would probably be the Levi and Judah, although it refers to them as the 10 tribes. So it's kind of odd, I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out, but it's one or the other, either the 10 tribes or the 2, Judah. But anyway, you got the idea. Then shall you, well, actually the one that ran away, I think, squandered as well. Well, the eldest tribe is Ephraim, the 10 tribes, so it's probably talking about Judah and Jerusalem. I don't know, we could go, I don't want to go build too much on that. Let's just move forward. Then shall you return and discern. It probably would need to be tied to Romans 11. Maybe I'll work on that. We'll see. Then shall you return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. Okay. Now we'll go into Malachi 4. So the ones, who could he appear when he comes? You see, that's not the invading enemy. It says those are the bad ones. The Ezekiel 34, the bad shepherds, the rich fat cattle. They're the ones that are going to get it. It's in Malachi 3. Now, that being said, let's go to Malachi 4. For behold, the day, all right, so let's get this straight, make sure they didn't get us with the words. The word for is key, yeah, I could say for. Behold, that's hine, so, like, here comes the day, yom, that's the day, yom, cometh, the day comes, I would say, that shall burn. Well, the day comes, burns, all right, I guess. Burn as an oven. An oven. Tamur, a fire pot or a stove. Burns an oven and all the proud. Let's check that word. Zed, arrogant maybe, proud works. So the oven is really a fire pot. And we're going to tie that to Zechariah 12:6 in a minute. So, and all the arrogant, proud, yea, and all, that should be call, yeah, it means all, that do wickedly shall be stubble. So we got a fire pot and we got stubble. And the day that cometh, the day, Zechariah 12, shall burn them up. And he said the day that cometh, and the word for cometh is bo, come. shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. It doesn't sound like he's polishing off Israelites, leaving them neither root nor branch. See, the bad ones seem to have gotten it already in Malachi 3, where he's a swift witness to them. And this is the day, burning them as a fire pot shall be as stubble. Now let's see what Zechariah 12:6 reads like. In that day I will make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. That sounds like it's real similar. Like an earth of, okay, so and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited. Well, it says Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So it appears that Jerusalem will be sieged, surrounded, which means the West Bank has to be containing that infestation around Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem, and the West Bank wraps around it like this, on three sides, north, south, and east. And we're not seeing that today. I don't think we're giving the West Bank back, because then it wouldn't be our land, it wouldn't be Jerusalem, there wouldn't be land siege to it, and that kind of thing. So I don't think we give it back. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David, let's see what the word save means. Yesha, which is salvation. So he's saying he's going to salvation the house, the tents, the house of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of old Jerusalem, and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Okay. So he wants to keep things equally balanced, not show favoritism. In that day, there we go with that day again. Okay, well, let me get back to into Malachi 4. We got the burning them up here. That's what I was trying to accomplish. Malachi 4 again, and I think we'll be in verse 2 now. But unto you that fear my name. All right. Now this is where they get a little bit stupid. But unto you, there's 5 words replacing one Hebrew word. Okay? See, this is slop translation. 3373 Yair. Means to be afraid. So what it's saying is fear Shem, fear name. And then it says, shall the son, it doesn't say that in Hebrew, it says Shemesh, the son, S-U-N, of righteousness, that's Yeshua. It's not son, S-O-N, that would be Ben. It's Shemesh, which is the sun up in the sky. arise, shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. It's not wings, it's extremities of the clothing. All the outer borders of the clothing, they wore robes. That's where it sits. It where that the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years grabbed onto and got healed. So that's tied into this so that people would know who it's talking about. But back then it worked because they read the Old Testament. Today, not that many read the Old Testament. Some do. When they don't read the Old Testament, they're much easier to fool. Arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth. It doesn't say that. It says, let's break it down. Yatsar, go out, go forth. You could say go forth, okay. Go forth and grow up is frolic about as calves of the stall. So you're going to be like a young again, probably in your low 20s, and frolic, jump around like a baby calf, bucking and jumping and kicking and having a good old time. You'll be young again. I would guess 23-ish as a guess. And now if you're 14 years old, I don't think he's going to make you 23. You'd probably be like that. And you shall tread down the wicked. And the wicked word is Rasha. Wicked. It's okay. Wicked's fine. Wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this. The day, the Zechariah 12 day, when Elijah and Apostle John burn up the enemy round about on the right hand and the left that are laying siege to Jerusalem and Judah. In the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now this to me appears to be the wicked, the ones surrounding us, the Muslim terrorists. But you see, it appears that we had the temple and or the tabernacle first to get the blessings of the Lord, which gave us that complete victory where the two witnesses were given the power to burn them up. People don't even have to fight. So how many people do you think are going to get injured in this battle? 0. How many are going to get killed? 0. How many are going to rip their clothes and break their fingernails? 0. 0, 0, 0. And what happens to the enemy? They take the dirt nap or they get burned up. Where is God's furnace? Jerusalem. It's a scripture. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. In the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of armies. Remember you the law of Moses. Yes, that's the same law that 2 billion people in the churches say is done away with. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel. If you're in Yeshua HaMashiach, the king of Israel, the high priest after the order of Melchizedek, he's a Jew from the tribe of Judah, Yehudah, which is where the Jew word comes from, Yehudi. And he calls you his brethren. Now you go tell me how you're not a Jew and you're not an Israelite if you're in Yeshua. Go ahead, find it. I like to hear that one. That's why it says all Israel shall be saved. That's why New Jerusalem has 12 gates made out of a giant pearl guarded by an angel. Each gate named after one of the tribes of Israel, of which there's 12 tribes. So if you're in the church and we're not in Israel, we stand next to the church, which is Satan's line. Satan's basically getting you to announce that you are not in Israel, therefore cannot get into New Jerusalem. Do you see what he's trying to do? He's an idiot. But do you see what he's trying to do? Hope so. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel with the statutes and the judgments. Behold, I will send you Eliah, or Elijah the prophet, Eliah HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with the curse. That sort of sounds like you and your whole house shall be saved. Fits into that, doesn't it? Yeah, I think so. Got some kind of a fit going on. Let me check the chat, and I got a couple other things to cover. Being the temple of the Holy Spirit is not the temple of the glory of God of Israel. Okay? Don't let the church deceive you with that garbage. Alright, people want me to post in Hebrew. Alright. Here we go. I'll post the demon tossing in Hebrew. I'm transliterating it, and there is no real rule for transliterating. Oh, the spell check is driving me crazy here. Trying to transliterate and it's trying to correct me. Oh, the spell check is a nightmare. Alright. All right, I gave you a reasonably decent transliteration up there, so you could toss demons out in Hebrew and have a good time doing it. Okay. All right. Now, oh, let me check my notes. Hold on, hold on. I hate it when I forget to put something out that I'm supposed to. Why would Elijah have to remove the dross from the Levites if Yeshua HaMashiach already appeared in the clouds and they received everlasting life and they had a heart of flesh and he put the law in their inward parts? Makes no sense. This happens before the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds, Yeshua in the clouds. You got it? The ones that are getting whacked after he appears in the clouds, I believe, are the enemies of Israel surrounding, laying siege to Israel. See, I told you ever since I got my head out of this sequencing stuff where I was messing it up, now I got clarity. I can see things clearer. The Lord's showing me more stuff now. It cleared it out. By the way, I don't know if we did this yet. Let's toss MD. Mike Delta, MD, Mike Delta, toss. For MF, Mike Foxtrot, MF, Mike Foxtrot, pray for financial assistance and career. MF, Mike Foxtrot, pray for financial assistance and career. Now, we don't see Elijah training the Levites with missiles and rockets raining down either, do we? So maybe there is a ceasefire. Let's keep our minds open to that. Maybe. It won't last, but maybe they have something for a while. I don't know. Maybe there is a ceasefire, then things calm down, then Elijah starts working openly. And we have the tabernacle or the temple or both, I'm not sure. You want me to guess, and it's just a guess. The tabernacle comes first because the temple would be greater. But I don't know that. I can't answer it. Pray that I get the answer, but I can't answer it. For sure, I'm just giving you what I think, my hunch. It's a hunch, that's it. The tabernacle will appear without the glory of God of Israel in it initially. So it could be that's where Elijah and the Levites are working, in the temple without the glory of God of Israel. Is the anointed prince there at that time too? You got me on that one, I don't know. I don't have every little detail, kids. I'll be right back. glad I remembered to get that out with the Elijah training the Levites. Is rather obviously before the appearing of the sign in the Son of Man. I can't make it work with it after that. So while we don't know when the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds is going to be, the fact that he used the word for year but not Shana Shabbat, not Shabbat, whatever, I forgot Shabbat. I gotta look it up. It's not Shana, it's the other word for it, which is more of an approximation type of thing. So it's not going to be a long time. You know, I don't think only it's going to be 7, 8, or 9 months. What do I think? Month, 2, 3, something like that. Maybe less, I don't know. It's designed that we don't know the day or the hour. It's not designed we don't know the season. We're supposed to know the season. So throwing it off way in the future, how long is a season? Well, we are 4 in a year. A season is 3 months. Knock, knock. You get it? So that would lead me to think and speculate that it would be in the next 3 months. What day? Who the heck knows? I don't. You don't. Yeshua doesn't. Yeshua's fine with it. We should be fine with it too. Okay. See, after the appearing of the sign of Son of Man, Elijah wouldn't have to be sitting there getting the dross out of the Levites. Why would the Levites gravitate towards Elijah? Well, he'll appear and he's going to be trying to pick my words extremely carefully. He'll be observably different to the vision, and he will be doing signs and wonders that will be astounding them. The whole gamut, okay, the whole enchilada, the dead, everything, dead coming up, all of the everything, you know. Yeshua said, greater works than these you shall do. Believe me, Elijah will be covered by that. And Apostle John will kick it into gear. And remember, the crazies are really making war on Apostle John and Elijah. Do you understand how mentally demented you have to be? Why would they make war? Well, let's assume maybe as a possible hypothesis or as a guess. Okay, as a guess. Am I prophesizing or am I guessing? I'm guessing. Do I think it's an educated guess? Yeah, but that's still not a prophecy. It's an educated guess. There's a difference. Okay? It's like, thus saith Moshe, maybe this will happen, okay? That there is a ceasefire and things calm down. I really feel this is going to happen, though. But did I say I prophesied or I feel? Okay. The rockets are not coming down anymore and all that stuff, right? And then Israel is at peace. The people here are broken up. I live here. They're broken up. It's manifesting in everybody. People get quiet, people get nervous, people get this, people get that. Some of the weak ones will go for the booze. My wife did a study. It was real interesting. I think she probably got it right on strong drink and wine and all that. Wine was diluted. You know, the stuff from the grapes that's fermented, they diluted it, I don't know, 3 to 1 with water, something like that. And the strong drink was the wine that was not diluted with water. So it wasn't scotch or bourbon or vodka or the other crap they drink, tequila or whatever, right? It was undiluted wine. Well, I don't know what the high octane you could get out of what high octane. I'm kidding around. What the proof for the alcohol content is. You know, I don't know. Maybe you could get it to 10%, 12%. I have no idea. You know, could you get wine up to? Maybe you could get it to 20% or 25%. You're not going to get it up to 80 proof, which is 40%. I doubt you could get it up that high. They didn't have distilleries and stuff like that, you know. Now that's the Israelites. Now the Romans had mead, which was from a honey, I think. There was other stuff running around. Now maybe, you know, we could, maybe there's another way of looking at it that my wife didn't agree with, and that I think other nations in the world had strong drink. I think. And I think that strong drink could have been available in Israel as well. I don't know. I really don't know. You know, but it was interesting. So by her study, and it could be good that she thinks the strong drink was undiluted wine. And maybe it is. So, you know, Timothy, drink a little wine for your stomach. Well, he didn't say, Timothy, drink a little strong drink for your stomach. So the diluted wine would probably, the alcohol in there would probably clean the water, or, you know, kill garbage in the water to some extent anyway. And it wouldn't get you that drunk. Some people came here a few years ago and they bought low alcohol wine, and they asked me and my wife to join them. And I figured, well, I never had low alcohol wine. I'd try it, and it wasn't bad. First of all, it tasted great. Second thing is, you didn't get the, you know, buzz from the alcohol, which I hate. You got maybe a fifth of it or something. You got very light, you know. So that's interesting. It supports what my wife's research led her to. I think she had it right, but I also would be of the opinion that strong drink, as we know it, real, you know, hard-hitting alcohol stuff was probably available. I don't know. But anyway, let's keep going. Chief, what are you up to down there? I'm getting a little concerned what you're doing. You're not answering me, huh? Chief, don't be a bad boy. We're going to do Revelation 11 in a minute. So, you know, brace yourself. There could be a peace treaty, and the peace treaty is going to make a mockery of God. Because believe me, they're not going to tell Israel, well, you need a ceasefire. Here, Israel, here's 1,700 or 4,900 2,000-pound bombs. We're sick of this war. We've had it. Go in there. You got 7 days. Drop all the bombs on Gaza. We're sending you 100 bulldozers. Push all the garbage into the ocean. And let's end the war that way. They don't want to have a ceasefire. Just blow them up and kill them all. It's fine with us. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Okay? But what does God do when he settles it? Burns them up. So, Elijah had, maybe there's a temple, maybe there's a tabernacle. There definitely, I think, will be one or the other. We could argue there'll be just an altar, but I don't think so. Okay? And there's miracles being done. Elijah and Apostle John, I'm sure, are visually different. Like Moses shining, glowing, you know. Miracles all over the place. Satan is pulling his hair out. So then the nations go back into gear and surround Jerusalem. Jerusalem's not really laid siege to right now. And I'm sure then the missing factors like Jordan, Egypt, maybe Turkey, you know, the other, you know, gaga goo lunatics will get in the act. and come surround Israel. Now the bad ones have already been have already gotten it in Malachi 3. The Israelites, the bad Israelites, they've already gone. That's Ezekiel 34. Okay, who may stand in the day when he appears? See, they're going to harass him. They're not going to want a temple. They're not going to want Elijah. They're not going to want to see Israel be the head of the nations. So what happens to them? Okay, by fire I expect, but God's going to be a swift witness unto them. So they're going to get it. Okay? If Elijah gets them or Jehovah gets them, I mean, the net effect to us is the same. Okay. So they're gone. Now we got the poor, and they haven't gotten everlasting life yet, and then they come and they surround, lay siege to Judah and Jerusalem, and the people get very scared. The military's gone at this point. The army may try to roll up on Elijah. You think that won't happen? Let me ask you something. You think the fire coming out of Elijah's mouth could kill 100,000? Sure. How about 500,000? Yeah. How about if it needed to 11 million? Sure. You're going to limit God? His hand's too short to save? You think Elijah went out and bought a book in the library? How to make fire and lightning come out of your mouth? No. It's it's the Holy Spirit in him. It's the Lord doing it, Jehovah doing it. And his hand is not too short that it can't save, okay? So whatever they throw at him, it doesn't matter. It's not enough, okay? Whatever it is, it's not enough. It won't work, okay? Years ago, I had a dream in Israel. I was standing around, and I didn't know enough to know what the time setting of the dream is. It's probably about now. And I saw a jet flying over the Tiberias Sea of Galilee area upside down, with like and smoke. And I told people about that. They said, what color was the jet? And it was desert camouflage color, which could mean it's anybody's jet. I don't know what it was. Syria got jets. Iraq got jets. Iran may get jets from Russia, maybe not. Turkey got jets. Lebanon don't got jets. Yemen, the Houthis don't got jets. Egypt got jets. Could have been an Israeli jet. Could have been an Israeli jet that was getting shot down by Elijah and or Apostle John. They're taken down. How would they take it down? Have you ever seen a fire-resistant jet that can't burn? Gee, I never did. They carry a lot of fuel and explosives, don't they? Oh. So I hypothesize to you that this Elijah training the Levites in the offerings will get Satan to pull his hair out, bang his head against the wall, howl at the moon. He'll go completely bonkers. He's pretty far gone now, but he'll go completely wacko. Complete. That'll be, he'll go nuts. And the demons too. So they'll launch whatever they can and try to get everybody riled up. They just lie to them. Oh, don't worry, I'm doing this, God's not doing it, it's my plan, everything will be okay with you. Yeah, garbage like that, So, that's how I'm leaning towards this, and not prophesying it, just giving you my best shot, okay, as educated guess, let's say. But an educated guess is still a guess, right? Okay, so that's how I'm looking at it. All right, we'll get a little bit of insight into Revelation 12. I told you I've got a lot more clarity now that I got that other stuff out of my head that I was wrestling with all the time, with the dates and the sequencing and all that. All right, so we're in Revelation 11. verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, the outer courtyard of Ezekiel's temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the heathen, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. Now I got to open this up to you. Okay, so he's saying don't measure the outer court because it's given to the heathen. Well, this is not the temple of the beast, because the temple of the beast, everybody there would have taken the mark of the beast. No? That's pretty logical, right? So if the schmuck beast built it with an outer and an inner court and all that stuff, right? And they'd all be no good. Not just the outer court would be given to the heathen, the whole place would be given to the heathen. So it's not the beast temple we're talking about here. Right? Makes sense? They shall tread underfoot 42 months. Okay. The 1260 days, the 42 months, and the time and half a time is the same thing. It's the captivity of Israel. It's a complicated concept. The first captivity was Egypt, then came Babylon, then comes Rome, and the half of captivity is the great day of the Lord, which is Gog and Magog, which you could read in Zechariah 14, which I will read to you, and it's verse 1 and 2. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh. That's Gog and Magog. That's the great falling away. And thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. That means your houses are getting looted and plundered and pillaged. It's a bloody little event. Not little. For I will gather all the heathen against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, that's looted, and the women ravished, that's raped, and half the city shall go forth into captivity. That's your half a time. This has never happened yet, never happened in the past, where half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. And the residue, the rest of the people, shall not be cut off from the city. They stay there, because you read this in Ezekiel 8 to 11, chapters 8 to 11. The church never teaches you this, rest assured. In chapter 9, we read that all the people in Jerusalem that are grievous over the injustices, the lawlessness being done in Jerusalem, get a mark placed in their forehead, which could be the name of Jehovah. That's his mark, his signature. Like in the Davy Crockett days, you buy a farm, put your mark here. It doesn't mean you made an X. I mean, you put your signature there. That was your mark. Anyway, your name signature was a mark. So anyway, it could mean that. It could mean something else. So, and no harm comes upon them. It says that. So they have the mark placed on their forehead, the good mark, and no harm comes to them. So half of them remain there. This is never taught by the church. Okay? So that's your time and times a half a time. And what is 42 months, 3.5 years? What is 1260 days, 3.5 years? Now, people get very confused about this, courtesy of the churches. But when you read Revelation 12, I'll read it quickly. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But it's... I'm going to show you how it can't be a literalization. I think it's, Revelation 12:6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. So now we got Israel going into the wilderness, which is Israel. That's what Zion and Sion means, dry parched place. And it's 3.5. It's the time at times and half a time. And then we see it later on in 12. Uh, 12 verse Revelation 12:13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place. Is that Rio de Janeiro, Tokyo, Berlin, or perhaps Israel, Jerusalem? What do you think? Into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water, that as a flood, that would indicate people, after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. That's putting the Arab Muslims into Israel to get us out of here. And as I see it, in my opinion, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Now pay attention. Which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. That means they follow the law, the Old Testament, the law, and the New Testament, and they're believers. That's who Satan goes after. That's you guys. If they don't keep the commandments of the Lord, he's not interested in. What did Yeshua say? If you love me, obey my commandments. Now you see this time and times and half a time. I'll do this quickly. It's not that difficult. A lot of people are just never going to receive it. Other people will. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. How does he change the times and the laws? Well, the rabbis are off on some different calendar with different holidays, and changed the law to the Talmud. What did the churches do but did away with the law altogether? And they changed times too. And they don't use the Bible year, they use the other years, Pope Gregory's Gregorian calendar, etc. And they shall be given into his hand until the times, and dividing the time. That's the half a time. That's when we're finished. And that's the end of the second 70 of Daniel 9:24, which closes out at the close of Guard. And the Guard, when we see the moon turn dark, the sun turns dark, and the stars fall from heaven. And then after it's over, we get the new heaven and the new earth, and then we'll shortly go into the millennium. Okay. We see this again in Daniel 12. What verse? Wait, I don't know, maybe 8. Let's see. No, it's higher up. It's verse 7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river. And who do you know who walks on water? Got a hint yet? When he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. So it's not over till the second 70 of Daniel, which isn't going to start until we have the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man. Daniel does not say 70 weeks. In every single Hebrew manuscript, it says 70 70s, 70 70, two 70s. The first was the 70-year Babylonian captivity. The second is the same exact period of time, 70 years. 70 biblical, 360 calendar day years. And it would start with the appearing of the sign of Son of Man. And the appearing of the sign of Son of Man is associated with the sun going dark and the moon turning to blood. And when it's over, the sun goes dark, the moon goes dark, and the stars fall from heaven like figs off a tree. Okay, let me get back to Revelation 11. So this happens in the temple in Israel. Verse 11, 1 and 2. Verse 3, and I will give, and the word power is not in the text, I will give unto my two martyrs, two witnesses, they say, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days. Well, that's basically saying they're going to prophesy until the end of the second 70. My best shot. Clothed in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the whole earth. That's Zechariah 4, the last verse, or the whole chapter really, Zechariah 4. And if any man will hurt, it doesn't mean hurt, it means get in the way, hinder, hurt. You know, they isolate it to hurt. Like if they run after them with a sword, they'll get burned up. But the meaning of it is much broader. Will hurt them, fire, which can also be lightning, it could be one or the other, proceed out of their mouth and devour their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. You know, so when the false believers come around and said, oh, you know, you're the beast, you're the false prophet, I imagine they'll get burned up, as I see it. These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy. And that's optional for them, if they want to do it, you know. And have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues, all hits, it's what it means, a hit, as often as they will. And when God gave Israel the 10 plagues, the word really means a hit, you know. And when they shall have, it's not a punch, it's a hit, okay. And yeah, it's hard to get it right in English, isn't it? And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. They're warriors and they die in war. And their dead bodies, they're prophets, but they do wage war. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which, okay, so see, what I'm getting here is they're prophesying about the great falling away in Ezekiel 8 to 11. And I'm thinking that's probably where they get it. Versus the great city, Babylon the Great, well, that's probably not where they are. Because back in verse 1 and 2, talks about the outer courtyard, the inner courtyard, you know. It's called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. True, he wasn't crucified in Jerusalem, he's crucified outside the gates, but I think we get the idea. And they of the people and kindred and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put to in graves. Let me finish before you jump to conclusions. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice. Now, we could go with earth on that. Shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven. Oh, it just jumped chapters on me, stupid thing. And they, let me find my place again. They stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. I would expect that they had a spiritual body at this point, but I could be wrong. Yeshua went up in a cloud, and he told Thomas, I'm not a spirit, he'll touch me. So maybe that whole theory that you're not going up in a cloud unless you have a spiritual body, maybe that needs more attention. I'll pray about it. And the same hour was there. I'm not going to deal with that now. I think I'm right with this, but let's keep going. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake was slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted. Now the remnant, if this happened where the beast had his temple, what remnant was there? If you take the mark of the beast, you're no longer a remnant. You're a lake of fire material. So this is the temple in Jerusalem. See what I'm saying? Remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And the third woe, I believe, would be the tribulation on the nations. And let me go in the chat to see if we got questions. Wearing the mantle of Elijah doesn't really, I don't think it's... God says, I will send you Elijah. They asked John the Baptist if he was Elijah. He said no. They went to Elisha, who got the mantle, and he never said he was Elijah. He was Elisha. He never impersonated Elijah. God says this is Elijah, so I believe it is Elijah. Who's the Antichrist? I mean, there's no real Antichrist in the Bible. They just play with you with that. Remember, it says even today there are many Antichrists among you, and that was around 2,000 years ago, rough cut. It's the beast, and he comes up out of the pit. And the locusts with stingers like scorpions and snakes, tails like scorpions, stingers, and serpents in their tail. They come up, and then the beast will come up, and the beast comes up, and you see him in Revelation 13, coming up out of the sea. So he comes up from the pit. He's not a regular person. He probably looks like a fallen angel because his name's Apollo Abaddon. He's, I'm pretty certain, a fallen angel of some sort. And that's who he is. To say Antichrist is silly. To say it's Trump or Elon Musk or any of that idiocy, Putin, or it was Hitler or Mussolini, right? That's ridiculous. They didn't come up out of the pit. They're probably dumb enough to want to go live in the pit, because, but they didn't come up out of the pit. It's not a human. Okay. If any of you want to support the work, I have offering information up at the top of the chat and in the description box under the video, along with my email address in the chat at the top and the bottom of the description box. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at gmail.com. And please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and all. They're all rescues. Pray for better videos. Pray God keeps answering the questions. Pray for the peace of Yerushalayim, and I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, you might want to subscribe, because I do post live streams at unusual times and hours, sometimes several times a day, when the, let's say, eggs start hitting the fan, okay? And you better believe there's an attack coming on Iran, Iraq, and Syria. And I'm sure that America and her friends are going to do something bad to the Houthis. And when it comes to Lebanon, you got to understand, I don't think Biden cares what we do to Lebanon. He never speaks about that place like, he doesn't care about what we do there. It's always Hamas he wants to get protected, not Lebanon. So, I don't know. But we'll find out as the days roll on, won't we? So these nutbags in Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen might actually throw a substantial attack at us on the 9th of Av to insult the Jewish people, and make them think. See, they would be they're running a psychological warfare on us. They keep telling us, oh, we're going to attack, and they don't attack. Is Iran afraid to attack us at this point in time? Yeah, I think so. America is threatening them. And aside from America, all that has to happen is America just tells, Biden tells Netanyahu, look, these Iranians are morons. Go do what you want to them. Go give them a real hard thrashing, and then we'll talk to them. Netanyahu would. Their oil refineries would definitely be down the road memories. And that bring them to their knees. But it says in prophecy that this Elam, Iraq, Syria, and Iran will be destroyed by her enemies, plural. And Iran has a lot of enemies. Let me read your list. All of NATO, all of European Union, I think Canada, America, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Guam, Australia, maybe New Zealand. I mean, parts of Africa probably. We could keep going. I mean, there's a big list. Saudi doesn't like them. Jordan doesn't like them. Oman doesn't seem to like them. UAE doesn't like them. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Egypt. Turkey's not in love with them. They got a lot of enemies. So Iran, in their quest to wipe out Israel and make them all leave Israel, may reap what they sow and have it all happen to them soon, too. And that's what prophecy seems to look like to me. So that's it, kids. I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I am out.